welcome everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I think most of you are in North America, a continent now that I haven't been on since January, and I miss Philadelphia very much. But London hasn't been a bad place to be for lockdown, that's for sure. So I miss seeing you all. That'll be the first thing I'll say. And I hope that you are all healthy and well wherever you are. And I definitely wish I could be on stage today rather than my office, but welcome to my office here right on the Prime Meridian. So I had intended to do a certain particular keynote in New York this year, and I had prepared it in February before the world changed. And I've adapted it a bit to really put it in the context of what we're all dealing with, of course, and what we have been dealing with, which is isolation. And what does that mean for us? What does that mean for digital asset management? And how can we make a better world, both for ourselves and for DAM technology as we emerge from this unprecedented situation? So David was kind enough to give you a little bit of my background. I have been working in information technology and really content management now for the better part of 25 years. And I've been focused on digital asset management for about the last 15 years, working as a systems integrator, as an industry analyst, and now primarily as a consultant, focusing in the areas of DAM strategy, product selection, a lot of data orchestration, and general digital stewardship. About 4 years ago, I wrote a book on DAM called Digital and Marketing Asset Management, published by Rosenfeld Media. And this is just a selection of my clients from the last 2 to 3 years. At any given time, I'm working with about 10 to 12 organizations on these particular topics, large, small, medium, but mostly really large product companies has been the lion's share of my work over the last 10 years. So how was your lockdown? Or how is your lockdown? Because let's face it, it's not really over yet, and it's probably not going to be over for quite a long time. You know, I think we all sort of have gone through these phases of grief and these phases of denial. And that first moment when we realized, wow, we can't go anywhere. And then we maybe thought that there was some sort of positive waiting in this whole thing, and that we could count the days. But of course, none of us knew when it was going to be over, and we still don't know when it's going to be over. And then came sort of the lonely cry for help, where also we thought, well, it is springtime, maybe we could get out a little bit more and get an early seasonal tan. Here in England, we actually had the sunniest April on record. Unfortunately, we were actually allowed outside in this country, which was not the case in much of Europe. So it was good to get out, and it was good to get the sun. We were all very positive about it, perhaps in one way or another. And many of us on social media writing what we were grateful for every day. But let's face it, that got old really, really quickly. And we all just wanted a professional haircut at one point and got really fed up and tired of asking our partners or our husbands or our wives to cut our hair. And then those of us who actually live with other people, there was a lot of talk of Jean-Paul Sartre's no exit, where the famous saying that hell is other people, because when you're seeing the same people every day, no matter how much you love them, it does get a little harrowing, doesn't it? So it's been tough, and it's been tough for all of us this year. And I think that, there was times where, wow, we got really excited when Zoom got working and when technology was working. And how amazing today, Zoom announced that their revenues were up 458% since last year. And this is why, right? I actually had one client, a small firm here in London, that had no remote collaboration technology in place when the lockdown started. And I offered them my Zoom account, which at least could host up to 100 people. And for the first 2 weeks of lockdown, that's what they used, because they had no other solution. So maybe if you work for a large company or a technology company, it was a seamless transition to this digital imperative that suddenly we were all slated with. But really, it was difficult, and it remains difficult for a lot of people who would be more productive if we were together, if they were really collaborating. And we really turned to Zoom, not just for our conference calls, but for our cocktails and everything in between. And I think for the first 2 or 3 weeks of lockdown, I was having a virtual cocktail hour every night, and I'm sure many of you were too. here I am speaking with fellow dam consultant Romney Whitehead and world famous taxonomist Stephanie Lemieux. And we just decided to all put on funny hats during our particular chat. And we got to the point where, let's face it, we all wished we could see each other. And we all wished we could see each other in person. And we even wished sometimes that we could be in some sort of fantasy world where we were in Middle Earth because we couldn't be in Paris, or we couldn't be in New York, or we couldn't be in San Francisco. And so we pretended that we were in Rivendell with these silly backgrounds, and at least nobody could see how messy perhaps the bedroom is that we were all forced to work in. But let's face it, humanity was not built on screens. It wasn't built using cameras or rapid video drivers, and our fabric, our human fabric, is not connected by APIs or plugins or the out-of-the-box connectors. It is connected by touch and by handshakes and by even the air kisses that the French give each other when they greet each other. Our human ecosystem is extremely physical. It is so physical, and our bodies and our minds crave it more than ever. And of the many things that we've learned from this pandemic, it's that we all need each other more than ever. We all had our days of despair. Personally, I had conversations with my coffee cup some days, just like Tom Hanks in Castaway had conversations with his football or his soccer ball, depending on what sport you call it. And this was Wilson, his name was, as David reminded me a bit earlier today. I personally even began to miss the people that I don't like. And so that's a sign that despite you might love the person that you're living with, you really start to miss the interaction, and you start to miss the collaboration, and you start to miss the connections. We are pack animals. We are meant to be together. We are part of an ecosystem. We are social creatures. We are abruptly and violently disrupted from our ecosystem, not just of each other, but of our environments and our work environments and the electricity that happens when we are together. And even the conferences that we missed this year, I tried to feel the buzz before I got on yet another Zoom call that I am right now, but it's just not quite the same. So interestingly though, human and technology ecosystems are remarkably similar to the natural ecosystem of our world. And this is the original topic that I had intended to broach when in New York this year. And if you remember before the pandemic, the number one thing in the news was the environment. It was Greta. It was all of the things that were happening around the world to try to save the environment. And we, of course, hope as we come out of lockdowns and as we begin to drive cars again and all of these things that perhaps we can do better. And when we think about the term viral, this is not a word that we like anymore, but of course we use the terms viral marketing, and how quickly we forgot about all of these things that we talked about before the pandemic. Though we don't like to think about it, viruses succeed and thrive because, of course, everything is connected. A healthy and natural ecosystem, every plant, every animal, every insect, every human being plays an absolutely vital role in keeping ecosystems, whether they are technological, whether they are natural, whether they are human, it keeps them operational and vibrant. So when we think about DAM in 2020, it really has to be about building a better ecosystem. It has to be about keeping our own ecosystem stitched together, despite the remarkable challenges we're all having with our humanity, even keeping that stitched together. We have finally begun to bring DAM systems, out of isolation. And this is something that's happened really in the last year or two. Our DAM was raised in silos. DAM lived on its own in a single department, usually the marketing department. And we need to move beyond that. We need to embark on our own journeys to sustain DAM and to help all the elements of our marketing ecosystem thrive. And DAM feeds that. We have to keep the viruses at bay. And the viruses are all these things that are things like territorialism in organizations, infighting, possessiveness, people who want to get to the top, all of these toxic things that unfortunately they infiltrate our organizations, just like this virus has infiltrated our world. We need to beat it, right? We need to beat these things in order for DAM to thrive and be in a better ecosystem. So let's think about successful ecosystems and what are the characteristics that they have. And before all this horrible things happened to the world, the last trip I took last fall was to, or I should say the last trip outside of Europe anyway, was down to Kenya. And I visited the Masai Mara, which is definitely one of the most remarkable places in the world. And I loved learning not so much about the big things. It was amazing to see lions and giraffes and, you know, these giant animals. But what really I found were most remarkable were the little things. So one of the things that's remarkable about ecosystems is how the component parts are often partitioned and how they often feed off each other and how they often help each other. Our technologies need to work the same ways. Our teams need to function in the same ways. And a successful ecosystem really promotes the kind of development that minimizes problems and minimizes issues. These are the sorts of environments that we need to create. So even the smallest creature, like this tiny little kingfisher, this is a tiny, tiny little bird, they can thrive in the presence of these big, giant, huge threats that are all over them, all over the environment, and all within the ecosystems. And yes, they can even beat these pesky viruses because they know how to take advantage of the right situation, and they know how to essentially create an environment where they can immunize themselves in a lot of ways from the potential harm. So this gentleman is by the name of Roelof Schutt, and he's the field operations manager and head guide at a conservancy within the Masai Mara in Kenya. And he's originally from South Africa. He's a displaced Afrikaner, and he has these very wolf-like eyes, and he has the ability to make wildebeest dung about as exciting as a pack of lions. And he does these walking safaris that start at 5:30 in the morning, and they explore the smallest details of the ecosystem. And so as I talk about these small details, think about the small details of your dam ecosystem and think about how they can influence the bigger picture of your organization, the big marketing goals, the big strategy, even everything that has to do with elevating your organization in a digital environment that we are unfortunately still largely forced to operate in today. So Roelof is extremely knowledgeable about termites. Now, termites are absolutely vital to the MarTech ecosystem and many other ecosystems on this planet. In fact, if there were no termites, many ecosystems would completely collapse and not be able to survive. And among the many things I learned from Roelof, it's that we in the digital asset management world have a heck of a lot that we can learn from termites. And they're among the most successful and thriving creatures on the planet. And they live in an environment that is the opposite of isolation. They form a supremely productive colony that is in some ways just unrivaled in nature. They might not be the most attractive things to look at. And for those of you who don't like bugs, I apologize in advance, but these are really remarkable creatures. One of the things that I think speaks to this interesting year that we've had, where most of us, or at least many of us, have spent many, many days alone and not leaving our homes, is the importance of the social aspect of what we all do and the social aspect of what termites do. They are meant to work together. They cannot accomplish what they are meant to accomplish alone. And their mounds, like I showed on the last slide, they actually extend for many, many meters underground. They're like massive cities. And there's this sort of huge social stomach that's processing lots of very interesting output. And one of these outputs is actually this little white fungus that you can see here in the stomach of this termite mound. And this white fungus is actually what they need to eat. And all of these termites working together are actually creating their own fuel. And as they do that, interestingly enough, they do some wonderful things for the environment. They actually let out steam, and they reduce the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So in their communities, in their collaborative environments, they have specialized areas where they work, just like we do, specialized technologies, specialized groups of people who are accomplishing certain things. And the byproduct of their work is actually the decarbonization of the environment. And this is why these creatures are so incredibly important. And there's so many parallels to the workhorse environment of the termite mound,
that's very similar to the workhorse environment that we all need to create every single day. And of course, in this year of isolation, our collaboration and coming together in the great digital social stomach has been that much more important than it's ever been.
But what can we learn from this environment that would apply to us as dam practitioners? Well, they form purpose-driven, productive colonies. And we're not even that strong at building dam teams in our organization. I think we're lucky if we can just get one dam manager hired, aren't we? It's so tough. But really having a purpose-driven, productive colony that is dedicated to brand management, to image management, video management, and making sure that it's well managed and that these assets can get out so that the carbon can be released and so that the rest of the environment, the rest of our MarTech environment can really thrive. That's what we need. Termites, they also divide work among groups with different skills. So they have some termites, they make more holes in the termite mound to let out more steam. And then sometimes they close them back up when they're being more productive or at night. It's incredible how the holes just change constantly to adapt to the environment. They recycle and reuse. Shouldn't we all be doing more of that with our assets and with our content? And they're constantly fine-tuning the system. They're opening and closing pathways, as I described, as the needs and the environment change. We still have, I think, one of the great viruses of the dam world is that we continue to treat it like a project rather than a program, and rather than an ongoing thing that we must manage and we must constantly fine-tune and that we must have ownership of and that we must have people to own on an ongoing basis. I'm really tired of temporarily hired dam managers, right? They need to be full-time and not having a managed service to really run your support and run your dam system over the long haul. It's absolutely vital. Termites, they also provide for the other creatures in the ecosystem. So the dam should not be in a silo, just like we should not be in isolation. We need to provide for our families. We need to provide for our friends. We need to provide dam systems for the rest of the MarTech ecosystem to really thrive and be successful. The termite mounds have amazing ability to recover from disturbances. They're constantly rebuilding. So sometimes animals will come and they'll sort of mess with the parts of the mound, and of course they get rebuilt so quickly. And if we have a disturbance for some reason or another, we need to be able to do the same. And it's also remarkable that these pillars, they manage to reduce carbon and cool things down. And this is the same sorts of things we need to do as dam practitioners. I mean, our dam systems obviously aren't going to reduce carbon. That's a bit of a stretch, but we need to build teams that are purpose-driven and directed. We need to have dedicated dam managers, brand managers, metadata quality assurance teams. And our dam systems can't live in isolation anymore. They have to provide for these other players in the ecosystem, the downstream marketing technologies, the web content management systems, and we need to be able to recover quickly, be agile, and we need to feed the enterprise with our fabulous fungi. And those of you who like mushrooms, hopefully I've put you in the mood for some mushrooms this evening watching termites make fungi. So this is about sustainability, and sustainability is something that interests me a lot, just not only as an environmental topic, but also as a business topic. And it's wonderful to see large organizations. One client that I've worked with for years that I'm very proud to work with, Unilever, they have an entire practice to get dedicated to sustainability. Of course, they have a head of sustainability. It's wonderful when you think about how can we take these environmental principles and actually apply them to our dam programs and apply them to our business. And of course, we think about the tenets of sustainable environment is around social, environmental, and economic. And if we apply this to a wonderful concept called biomimicry and architecture, and we think about how there's even been buildings that mimic what a termite mound does in terms of bringing in air and actually releasing the hot air so that, or I should say processing the hot air and keeping it cool in the building. And this describes when architects and builders use the principles of what nature does to achieve a similar goal. And we can do the same thing. Again, this is why we use the term viral marketing, right? We want to mimic the spread of a very successful virus. And of course, this is how we want dam to spread, quickly, relentlessly. And when you think about biomimicry, you imitate these natural strategies, and some architects have designed these buildings, as I mentioned, to sort of mimic this cooling sort of environment. And this is called Architecture 2.0 or Architecture 3.0. And many of you who've attended my seminars, etc., you know, I like to use the term DAM 2.0 or DAM 3.0, and this is adopting these natural strategies to sustain your program. It is not a project, it does not end. You need to build a sustainable program, and hopefully you will have a rollout plan and a communication plan that will enable your particular program to go viral. So that's my favorite building along the Thames, not because it's attractive, but because it reminds me of the termite mound right there on the bottom right. So like an environmentally friendly, self-cooling building that's been designed to be sustainable, we need to design our sustainable dam ecosystem. This is, if I just take the dam, this is the dam ecosystem. It's one that doesn't operate in isolation, but it's bringing in many, many assets from lots of different tools, lots of different production environments, and it's interacting very actively and constantly with a lot of different channels. It's distributing to many channels, and it's really thriving. It's helping those channels thrive, just like the termites help everything else in the ecosystem thrive. So how do you build a sustainable dam program? Well, it's pretty straightforward. We've all used these terms before. It's about people, process, and technology. And it's about all three of these things equally. I think I say this every year, and I still have to repeat it, unfortunately, because many organizations still aren't getting it right. They're spending $500,000 on a tool, but they're not investing in process analysis and refinements, and they're really not investing in people. Why buy a $500,000 or pound technology, but hire a dam manager and don't pay them what they deserve, and then not hire a team, for example, to really support the entire program end to end? It takes, in a large organization, sometimes dozens of people to properly support a dam program. And really, we should be signing those $300,000 SOWs for people just as much as we should be signing them for technology. And that is really where we're failing in dam sustainability, is we're putting too much of the budget on technology and not enough on people and business re-engineering, really, and process re-engineering. So what do we do? What are the actual steps here? So this is what you need to take to your management. You need to build a productive and a very social and environmentally friendly internal dam environment. You need to separate and share work in really encouraging ways that spur intellectual excitement and career growth. It's been unfortunate. I've had a few dam managers say to me recently, I feel like I don't have anywhere I can go in my organization, Theresa. You know, what should I do next? And it's our responsibility, if you're managing a dam manager or you're a VP of marketing or a CMO, to create career paths for dam managers. We need to foster a sense of belonging among customers, both internal, those who are using the dam, as well as external. And then we need to consider dam as a mark of corporate value and prestige. We need to see the value of dam across the whole organization. Environmentally, we need to leverage the power and accessibility and the scalability of the cloud. I have to say, I'm actually quite proud of how far the vendor community has come in this regard, and how much I'm seeing vendors take advantage of cloud and serverless architectures and really making so much progress in this regard. We need to understand and realize the potential of the connected MarTech ecosystem, educating others on its merits and its ROI. And then finally, we need to adapt to new assets and the very dynamic nature of dam. There's constantly new formats, there's more video, there's more of this, there's more broadcast going on every day. And then finally, from an economic standpoint, we need to ensure there's sufficient budgets, and as I mentioned, that they're spread across the right things equally. We need to agree to common metrics, refine the goals, tweak the financial allocations so that we're applying things in the best possible areas. We need to understand the monetary and brand equity value of assets and metadata, because they are extremely valuable. And we need to mitigate risk. So dam now has a role in legal environments, with rights management, with insurance, with regulatory. This is huge, especially I have 2 clients in pharma right now. It's a very, very big investment area right now is dam, to help manage these areas. And finally, we all have to do what we can to deal with uncertainty. We have to be agile. And as with the pandemic, we just don't always know what the endpoint is. And there's sort of a beauty in that. It's like being an artist. You know, what I did with my extra time during the lockdown was I learned to play the cello. And sometimes I would start playing those notes and I didn't know where it was going to end up, but that's how you write a song, right? And it's the same sort of thing with our projects sometimes. I know that doesn't make corporate people very happy to not necessarily know where it's going to end up, but this is an environment where we have to ultimately be extremely agile, more than we've ever had to be. I know in my 25-year career, we really have to improvise quite a bit. There will be roadblocks. There is just nothing we can do about that. Things will get in the way. Big lumbering things like elephants will get in the way. And, you know, the technology won't always be ideal. Connectors are not always ideal, but we need to connect our dams to the broader ecosystem. We need to take them out of isolation. We need to cross that bridge. And we must, as product developers, as dam practitioners, as vendors, we need to relentlessly improve our APIs. They're not necessarily going to facilitate everything from the start. We need to continuously drive product improvement. You know, whether you own a product or whether you are a customer, you need to keep pushing on that. It's the way we're going to increase taking our dam out of isolation. The data lake is a dangerous place. You're going to have to continuously delve into your data. You're going to have to clean things up. It's a constantly shifting pool. It's inclined towards chaos and a bit of entropy, and data quality projects are not a moment in time, just like dam, they are ongoing. I had one client recently with a 44,000 line spreadsheet of metadata as a migration that they had to take from one system to a new system, and they just had to do that. There's no way getting around that work. Like the hippopotamus, data cleansing is big, lumbering, and it is never lightweight. We just have to get it done. Tempting though it may be, don't put your head in the sand or the ground or whatever is below you today. You might want to do that. You have to keep the high level perspective, and you need to lift your head up and see the forest for the trees. And I think when I was most depressed at the beginning of this pandemic, I had a friend who said, in the grand arc of time, this will seem short. And let's all hope that that's true. So to wrap up, this is the stack. This is the most important slide I have created in the last year, and I did it in collaboration with the fine consulting team at ICP. You'll be hearing from some members of the ICP team. They do managed services for a lot of the biggest brands in the world. And we were collaborating on a strategy for a very prominent British manufacturing firm, very inventive and innovative firm. And they wanted to understand, where should our dam be 3 years from now, or 4 years from now, or 5 years from now. And this was the picture that we drew for them. And you can see dam is not in isolation. It is at the core of a much bigger MarTech stack, of a much bigger picture. Just like we need the human connectors and connections to be successful, we need it just as importantly in our software, because dam needs to integrate with digital rights information, product information, collaboration tools, marketing resource management, and all of the data that we are creating as organizations need to be so intimately tied to our dam. Isolation is not the answer. Integration and collaboration is the answer. So, in summary, taking us from isolation to ecosystem, we need to invest in the small details, people, data. We need to champion them widely. We need to form purpose-driven and productive project groups, but always in the context of the bigger picture of the program that will sustain this environment. We need to recycle and reuse assets across the ecosystem, be ready for roadblocks and environmental disturbances, always be ready to rebuild, and meet the needs of the existing generation without compromising the quality of the environment for future generations. So think about Roloff. He was so amazing with detail. And after I got back from Kenya, I was reading a lot about Leonardo da Vinci, because I became obsessed with where small details affected bigger things. And there was a wonderful quote by Leonardo da Vinci, which is, "Details make perfection." The beauty, the success, the sustainability of any ecosystem, of our ecosystem, It is all in the little details. So as we emerge from isolation, as we make our dam systems part of a larger ecosystem, we can now build a better future for ourselves and our organizations. Thank you very much.
Theresa, thank you so much. There's so much here for all of us to learn from, to be inspired by, and always the light of the land that you bring about people and process and technology on balance and sustainability. It's a clarion call for how we address what comes tomorrow. Thank you.